Mike Plactere, welcome to the show, my friend. Happy to have you. I love your background. If people are watching on YouTube, you got what do you have, a green screen or something like that in your house?
No, it's just whatever the Zoom thing is. I set that up. Um, yeah, I don't have anything. I mean, I could take it off and you'll see my whole office and all the crap I have in my office. But how's it going? Thanks for having me on, Greg. I appreciate it.
Listen, man, it's my honor. We got to connect through social media originally, and then we had a couple phone calls. You hopped on a couple of our web trainings, and it's
Yeah,
been nice to know you at least virtually for now. You're a fellow New Yorker. You live in Oyster Bay, right?
yeah. I live in Oyster
Great.
Bay.
That's a great town, man. That's a great spot to live in.
I grew up around here. I grew up in Bayville, which is like maybe like 10 minutes away. But
Yeah,
I like the area. I really like the North Shore of Nassau County. It's
yeah, me
not like
too.
it's not like congested. Like everyone thinks Nassau County, it's like just really congested and just like tons of traffic. And it is like that, on the South Shore. But up here, I kind of like it on the North Shore. It's like a little quaint little town. It's a small town, but I'm a small town guy, I guess.
I remember Oyster Bay in one of my favorite movies, Meet the Parents. It's like they're in like Oyster Bay, even though they're probably in Hollywood. And I was
That's
like,
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, Oyster Bay. That's where it was. Which is
I forgot what happened. They say Oyster Bay, but I think they filmed it in like Garden City or something like that.
yeah, it was like it wasn't. Yeah, it was like pretend Oyster Bay. But I remember like the Oyster Bay drug stories on the phone with a guy speaking Thai or whatever. That was like
Yeah.
literally my all time favorite movie. I went to Singapore last month, low key flex for the listeners, and and I watched Meet the Parents on the plane. The week before that, I watched Meet the Parents. And then the week before that, I watched Meet the Parents. I can watch that movie once a week, and it's like I'll have my phone in the other room. I won't get distracted. It's just such a good movie. But anyway, we didn't get on the show to talk about that. We got on the show to talk about real estate and taxes, two very sexy topics. Taxes being the most sexy topic. So, Mike, give
Yeah.
everyone a little bit about your background and what you do besides being a real estate entrepreneur.
Yeah. So Mike Proctor, CPA. I'm an accountant. I work at a mid-sized CPA firm. I also have clients that are part of my own practice as well. And I'm also a full-time, or I should say a part-time investor who's trying to aspire to be a full-time investor, just like yourself. You want me to get a little bit of how I got into the accounting and
Yeah,
ultimately
like
real
how did
estate.
because I'll tell you what, I took accounting in college and I liked it, but it was relatively boring, at least for me. But it made sense and I got it, like the numbers. But like what made you want to like kind of go deep in that field and actually turn that into a profession?
Yeah, so actually at the time, so when I was in college, I was actually a finance major. And at the time, it was my junior year, it was 2008, and the market was crashing. Really, really bad. And listen, you have to be a rocket scientist to see like, you're not getting a job in finance when you graduate.
That's
So
insane.
I was like, I better figure it out, man. So at the same time, though, coincidentally, I was taking as a business major, you have to take all different, marketing, accounting, and all kinds of business courses.
Yeah.
Um, and I was taking the accounting 101 course, and it was actually wasn't difficult to me. Like all my lacrosse buddies, all the guys that I'm on the lacrosse team are like, I don't understand it. This is so foreign to me. And to me, it was like really, really wasn't that bad. So I knew there was something there. Also, my uncle was a CPA, so I'm like, all right, maybe I have I can get a job out of college. That was the big thing too. It was like, what am I going to do after college? So I knew I can probably get a job in accounting. And as I took the courses, I liked it more and more. And that just said so. Fast forward to post college, I got a job at a small local CPA firm. And the job market then was actually really rough. Like trying to find a job was like
Can
ridiculous. Like
imagine.
I'd go to like Stop and Shop and like local, strip malls, and like I'd apply everywhere. No one would like respond. And I'm a college graduate at that point. No one would get back to me. But I got lucky. A local firm needed someone and they hired me. And from there, I noticed my first busy season doing all these tax returns. I noticed like all the wealthy clients, the one thing they all had in common was K1s from real estate investments. Whether it was like a strip mall or they owned office buildings or single family rentals, they all had something in common. And now whether they, built their wealth through real estate or they were wealthy through some other business and then reinvested it, the one thing in common is that they all had wealth through real estate.
Got it.
So I didn't know you can really make money in real estate at the time. There really wasn't real estate courses in my college or in high school. So I'm like, all right, let me look into this. And I went down that rabbit hole, YouTube University. I spent, I read all the books, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, you name them, I probably read them. And I just was hooked. I was like, this is so cool. I didn't know you could, like I said, I didn't know you could make money buying houses and stuff like that. Like, it just was so foreign to me at the time. But you know, so fast forward like years, because I would spend years and years like procrastinating, like, oh, I want to do real estate. I can't wait to do
And
real
at this
estate.
time, you're an
And
accountant though, so you're still end up becoming an
yeah,
accountant, and then you're like in the corporate white collar world, basically.
yeah. So in those years, I was studying for my CPA, and I was busy in the corporate accounting world, so to
Yeah,
speak. But also like had that bug where I really wanted to get to real estate.
yeah.
And I don't know what it was. I think I was having like dinner with my wife's uncle, and we have dinner all the time and like drink beers and like just talk about life. And he was like, listen, if you're serious about this thing, my best friend Ralph, he's a real estate investor. This is what he does like on the side. Like he has a business flipping houses and he buys rental properties. Had dinner with him. Let's talk about, everything. So we sat down one day and he's like, if you're serious about this, come to the local RIA, meet Carl Chavone. He's the head of the RIA, and it's just have a conversation with him and have a call with him and see what you want to do with this thing. And I was at the time I wanted to do like mobile home parks. I don't know, I was like all over the place.
Not many on Long Island.
Right.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so I sat with my now he's my coach, but at the time he wasn't. And he kind of explained how, because I didn't think you could do rentals on Long Island. Like that was one thing that was just like, you can't do any rentals here. The numbers don't make sense. And he sat down and explained to me like that you can, and there's certain markets where the purchase prices are lower, the taxes are lower, and ultimately, I do the Section 8 model, which is what something that he, sort of, invests and teaches. So the numbers, I analyzed a lot of deals, and the numbers made sense to me. And I figured it's probably smarter just to invest in your backyard than it is to go out of state and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what led me there. I attended a bunch of RIAs for a bunch of years, and then COVID hit. Uh, and it gave me an opportunity because I was working now at home, and I got really serious about this thing. And I'm like, listen, this is it. Like, this is my big opportunity. And I just stopped with the procrastinating and all that stuff, and got serious with the business. And it was a good opportunity for me because, like I said, working from home, being able to hop on calls, in and out of calls all day, it's not a bad thing. Now, working in a cubicle, that can be tough, with your boss over your shoulder, and some realtor wants to know yes or no within an hour if you're going to buy the deal. So, it's not that
Yeah, it
easy.
doesn't really add up. Yeah.
So this is a good opportunity, I guess, to grow and build my business, and build relationships with a lot of people, realtors and other investors and stuff like that.
That's
And
an
then I
interesting
guess fast
background.
forward, yeah, I guess it's fast forward, COVID to 2 years later of just, lots of work, and I got my first rental property, and everything is smooth right now. Everything's doing good.
So you ended up figuring out a way to buy real estate on Long Island without, because I'll tell you, Nassau County's tough. Like the taxes are ridiculous. Suffolk mostly is pretty shot, at least like, nice Suffolk. You go out east, it's much
Yeah.
better. Obviously, you know that. So where did you buy that first
Yeah.
property?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't think I am under the impression it's very difficult, or I don't even think it's possible really to get rentals in Nassau County unless it's maybe a multifamily.
Yeah.
Just because of like, just look at the P&L of a rental property. Your big expense on Long Island is real estate taxes. So you need to be in places that have cheaper or lower real estate taxes. So Nassau, as you know, has stupid. I actually have a really good deal in my personal residence. I'm only paying like 10 grand. But imagine having a rental property that had like, a lot of it's common to pay 10, 12, 15, $20,000 on a single family rental on Long Island in Nassau County. So I don't even consider Nassau for rentals. I look out east in the Bellport. So my rental is in Bellport. I look in the Bellport, Patchogue, Mastic, Shirley, Coram, like that little
What
niche
about like
area.
West Islip or whatever, or East Islip? Is that all right for rental?
Um,
Oh, it's expensive.
the prices are still high. I think like at some point, places like Wyandanch, Brentwood, Central Islip, those were also rental markets. But as you know, since COVID, the valuations have gotten like ridiculous, and it's really
Yeah.
hard to get a property under 300,000 in those neighborhoods. So
Crazy.
and if you got to be under 300 even in the low twos to get rental properties on Long
Yeah, no,
Island.
that makes sense. So it's similar in my area. I mean, I'm from the Hudson Valley. That's where we do most of our business, and it's similar to Long Island, where you got really expensive values, and you got high taxes. Like, if you're in Westchester, basically the same thing as Nassau. It's like 25 miles from Nassau, right? You just go through New York City, but you're looking at 15, 20, 25
Yeah.
grand a year in taxes, right? Like, good luck. Even Orange County, like my parents' house, their taxes are probably 10 grand, and it's not even that big of a house, right? So uh, I found that at least in New York State, we might actually air this. I'm actually going to air this on both of our podcasts because you are a New York guy and it saves me some work. I think Pinter's on a holiday right now, so we're getting the work done with him. Passive income from Mike Pinter. But the thing in New York is the property taxes, and I'll give you some context here. So we also invest in the state of Delaware, which is that 2 states below New York, basically, like below New Jersey.
Yeah, yeah, right below
And
Jersey. Yeah.
literally, I was looking at a property. We're wholesaling 2 houses right now there, and the property taxes on most of these homes, especially in like Kent County, which is the second county into Delaware, I'm talking $988 a year, 1,500
Dude,
bucks a year, like
that's
crazy
crazy.
low. However, the rents are not nearly as high down there. Like
Yeah.
I fix and flip the house there, and I was like thinking doomsday. What if I don't sell this? What am I going to rent it for? And I was like, oh,
Right.
only get 1,600 a month for this. I'm like, if this thing was in Nassau, this thing would be like 4 grand a month easily. If it was in San Diego, it'd be like 10. I'm just kidding. It'd be like 5.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, New York, you got to just, like you said, you got to be in neighborhoods or zip codes, really, or town, city, whatever, cities, submarkets that allow you to do that. So in my area, Middletown, you can still do it. Newburgh, I got properties in Newburgh. I got them in
Yeah.
Middletown. I got one in Monroe, but that's a condo. That's high tax area. I got one in Chester, same kind of thing, townhouse. You
Yeah.
got to know your submarkets, right? And you're buying, and like Bellport, I don't really know much about Bellport, but I wouldn't imagine, is this a safe city to walk around at 2 in the morning, or is this kind of like a little bit more of a area?
Yeah, it's not the safest city. Like that's kind of where you're buying them is not, the greatest areas. However, people who I know that live out there and talk to me about this stuff, they're like 10 years ago, I wouldn't step foot in this town, like really bad. And they cleaned it up, considerably from what I hear. Now, that's safe enough, for me to invest in, I think. But yeah, I mean, they're not like, 2 in the morning walking around the street, I would say.
They're like what do I call it? Workforce housing kind of towns,
Yeah,
up
blue
and
collar
coming
towns.
neighborhoods, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Not war zone. You're not investing in like we do stuff in war zones sometimes that will wholesale. Like I got a one in North Philly right now. I wouldn't go to that property if you paid me right now. Wouldn't go there if you paid. It's shot, right? But that's the ghetto. That's like the real ghetto. Newburgh
Well,
is another. Go
that's
ahead.
why my taxes are 35, I think now $3,600 a year.
In Bellport.
That yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
that's
that's
phenomenal.
I mean, it's phenomenal. I got it in the low twos. I didn't put a lot of money into it.
It's great.
And you got to get them cheap and you got to get them with low taxes. And in those neighborhoods, you can do that. You can find pockets, you can find deals. There's always a deal. And then from there, I mean, I could tell you what the P&L looks like. I'm
Yeah, what
renting it
does
for
it look like? What
20.
do the numbers look like? Let's walk through like a New York rental property because really this is something that both listeners, I mean, we get a lot of New York people on the Real Estate Fast Track podcast too. Like, people want to know the numbers on these things, and you're an accountant, so I got the best guy in the world to talk about that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm getting 2,700 from Section 8. Well, yeah, I think it's 150 comes from the tenant.
Yeah.
The rest of it is Section 8.
Okay.
Now at the time, between the time I got the rental was in April and now the rents have gotten crazy, particularly with Section 8. They've gone up 20%. So right now I can get 3,200 for that same rental property. Yeah. So I'm actually gonna renewal in April. I'm gonna bump it to I'm gonna ask 34 and to see where they kind of negotiate with me and
Yeah.
get the most I can for this thing because right now, I can get an extra 500, in 6 months from now. So that's what I'm gonna do. So all right, so I'm renting it for 2,700. Now my mortgage payment, that's with taxes, insurance, the principal and interest, is 1,775. So, and at the time, it's funny because when I went under contract, the rates were like 3.25 for me, 3.5 maybe, and they bumped it. They were going crazy through the renovations, and by the time I refinanced, I'm locked in. I got locked in at 5%. So even now it's at 7. But anyway, so I'm making like $925 a month, just from that rental. And listen, now there's obviously capital expenditures you got to factor in.
Yeah.
There could be a repair one month.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of repairs that popped up, so a couple $100 here and there that maybe, your cash flow goes from 925 down to, 625 or, whatever it is,
Yeah.
so, and that's really it. You got a little, I factor in a little bit for vacancy, but I mean, at the end of the day, the great thing about Section 8 is, the average stay of a Section 8 tenant is 11.2 years. And I heard this from people that have been tracking this stuff for, 20, 30 years. And where the average stay of a cash rental is 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So, that's a big cost turnover that people don't like to talk about. That's a big factor in your cash flows when, you're doing a cash rental. Yeah, you made all this money for 2 years. Then they leave. You got to redo the floors because their dog scratched it up or whatever. They high heels or whatever. And there's like holes in the wall and you got to repaint it. And now all that money you made for 2 years is gone. Whereas in a Section 8 rental, I don't have to turn that thing over, generally speaking, for another 11 or 10 years or something like that. So that's a
That's a
huge thing that no one talks about.
no-brainer. That's a
Yeah, no one
no-brainer.
talks about that. It's huge.
Oh my goodness. It's interesting you're talking Section 8. I have a wholesale deal I'm selling this guy in Port Jervis, which is like kind of a junky area.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's like kind of like the redneck Riviera out there. And, like your cousins are your wife. I'm just kidding. Someone listening in Port Jervis, they're gonna come crucify me. But if you're listening, that's the truth. But whatever. So I'm wholesaling the Section 8 house to this guy because it's like the tenant's just that if the tenant's listening, she knows she's a psycho. You're a psycho tenant. Anyway, she's nuts, absolutely nuts. And the numbers at Section 8 are phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. But I just don't want to deal with this lady because she's a wingbat. But I mean, she's paying like, I don't know, $27 a month or something. And then Section 8's paying the balance.
Wow.
So this guy's like, yeah, this guy's going to get a good deal. But listen, and here's another benefit to Section 8 that if you're in New York or Delaware or California or Philadelphia, somewhere where the landlord laws suck, if the tenant doesn't pay rent, you're not going to get smoked, right? The government is paying you the money versus the tenant saying, "Oh, I can't make rent this month. My car broke down." Well,
Yep.
it's a cash tenant. Well, there's not much you can do. You got to file eviction and get them out in
Right.
6 months, right?
That was the so like that's like a really good nugget that you just dropped there, because a lot of people I talk to, like my friends, investors, they're like, dude, I'll never buy rentals. New York sucks. I'm going to do it out of state. And I'm like, listen, you really can't just say like generalize things like that, because people do. They go, you can't do rentals in New York. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Because first off, every jurisdiction is different with evictions. So you can't just say New York sucks. But second off, touching on that point, like if you have Section 8, you don't have to worry about an eviction. You shouldn't have to worry about an eviction. Obviously, there's some bad Section 8 tenants, but if you screened them right coming in, you shouldn't have to worry about having a tenant not paying you, because what are they not going to pay you? $200 or $100 a month, and then they're going to risk losing their voucher for free housing or very low housing. Like, it's the stupidest thing in the world. So they're always going to pay. They always do pay on time, even before the rent's due, and the rest of it's paid by the government. So honestly, that's a big nugget that you dropped there, because it kind of evades that whole, you can't invest in not Long Island, but New York in general, right?
Yeah,
Because,
Jersey, New York, Connecticut, it's all the same shit. And Pennsylvania is a little bit better, except for Philly. But so how did you find your Section 8 tenant? Did you go to gosection8.com and advertise it, or how did you find? Because obviously screening tenants, I mean, that's a process within its own.
Yeah, so I have a really good rental agent, Carrie Gottlieb. If anyone on Long Island is looking for just a rock star agent, she's great at screening tenants. So I kind of relied on her to do a lot of that. She took the call. She posted it. She posted the listing, took the calls, showed the property, and she has like the street smart, where she can kind of like, hey, yes, no, gives me like the nod, and we found a really great tenant who has a full-time job, and that's another thing. You want someone who's working,
Huge.
because
That's a big nugget. People got to rewind what you just said, because the trouble lies when they're at the house all day.
yes, that's what I was gonna say. So if they're like, oh yeah, they don't pay anything, the government pays me everything, it's like, sure, that's great, but they're home. I don't want to say destroying your property, but they're use, just the use of like always, like the wear and tear is great.
Yeah, they're beating it up for
And
8 hours versus being in the office for 8 hours.
100%. So it's like, that's a big one. You want them working, and they have a full-time job. And, obviously I don't discriminate. Like, I'm not gonna say you can't rent unless you're working, but I'm saying it is a big factor. And this tenant is great. We screened a great tenant, and she works, and her portion isn't a lot. And listen, we took, she was in a bad position. Like when she needed the housing, she was like living in a women's shelter, I believe. I think it was a women's shelter. And, so she's really grateful to be provided with, shelter housing versus, in a great, newly renovated 3-bedroom ranch. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure. No, that's a great point too. And like this is something that I've, when I was a immature landlord to say the least, a couple years ago, I was like kind of a macho man, kind of jerk, to be completely bluntly here, man. Like I was like, I remember I bought my first rental, probably did at the time maybe 70 deals or 65 deals at that point. So I was like, I was like, oh yeah, I'm this real estate guy. I knock on my tenant's door. I have the deed in my hand. I think I'm like, as they would say, Big Dick Rick. And I'm like, hey, I just bought the property. I like literally walk in the house. I'm 20, I don't know, 25 at the time. So I'm like super young. These people have been living there forever. The landlord didn't tell them that she sold the property. So they got totally bait and switched. I bought it sight unseen.
Oh, damn.
I sit down with these people and I'm like macho man. Like, I'm like, yeah, this is my property. You guys are living here. Like, I want you guys to stay. And I was a total dick face, to be honest, super unprofessional, like just being real with you, bro. And now my relationship with tenants, unless I'm doing an eviction and they're giving me resistance, so I will have a caveat to that. I am very cool. Like I'm not like a pushover landlord. I'm a very respectable landlord. I'm very
Yeah.
reasonable. I don't budge, but I have empathy and I treat them like humans, right? Unless they don't treat me like a human, I will then get an attorney involved. And I'm very like strict with that. Like I don't get involved personally. The attorney handles it. I've had to do that a few times. But besides that, I'm very professional with them. I'm grateful that they're my customer, truly.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that they have a house that I have provided them and hopefully they're happy with. And if there's any reasonable request that needs to get made in order to improve the property, I will get that
Yep.
done immediately, no
Yep.
negotiating, unless it's bullshit. If they're calling me over something stupid that because they're busting my chops, we
Yeah.
have a conversation. But for the most part, I'm like, listen, yes, this is impacting your safety. Yes, this is impacting your health. Yes, I'm very easy to fix the property, but the nugget I'm trying to say to people is you got to treat your tenants with respect and you got to understand they are
Yes.
people too. You can't just be like this big macho man landlord like I was when I only had one property too, so I was a jerk. But like you got to be really reasonable with your tenants because at the end of the day too,
Yeah.
in New York, if you have a problem with your tenants, like they're not going to go away overnight. Like it's expensive, it takes time, and you really need to understand
Right.
the process. So you got to be like, very reasonable with these people.
Yeah. No, like two things there. Like first, like if you just come in hot, like they could just hunker down. They're not out in
Oh,
30
I know
days.
that, bro.
This isn't Texas where they're out in 30 days. Like this is, they can, if they're smart and savvy, they can really push this thing. So you got to really, you don't want them hunkering down and playing any games. However, the one thing I realized pretty early on is this is a people's business.
Yes.
Obviously you want to build relationships with people that are, you're working with and people that are bringing you deals. But even when you're with tenants, like you always want to do right by people, just because like, you just don't want to be in a position to where you're a jerk. And I've seen it. I've seen people that are jerks, and
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I don't know how they get away with some stuff, to be honest with you. But I mean, it's not good. You don't want to be a jerk because they can hurt you too. Those tenants can, like I said, hunker down and really cause some pain.
No, they definitely can. And I'll give you an example on this. There's a tenant that I have in Newburgh. His name is Will. Nice guy. And I've never met Will. I've never seen his property. Like I'm a complete like out of the picture for the most part. He sends me rent every month, thankfully, knock on wood. And so I'll give you the backstory on this. So this lady sold me this condo for an absolute song and a dance, and sight unseen, like straight up, like no looking at it, like just done deal. Will was paying like 850 a month or something like that, which is like insanely below market, like unreasonable
Yeah.
below market rent, right? And this is a one
Yeah.
bed condo
Yep.
in Berg, decent little area, but not the best area. And I reach out to Will and I said, listen, Will, and I generally don't tell them I'm the owner, but this time I kind of broke the rules because I was like, you know what, I might as well just show my cards. Here's the deal, Will. I know you, and the property is pretty beat up, but like he's been living there forever, and like he kind of made it that way. To be honest with you, like the landlord was just kind of like letting him do his thing. So she was paying the utilities. He was like paying her back. So that's the first thing that we slashed. Second thing was he knew his rent was completely unreasonable. And I said, listen, Will, I'd love to keep you in this home right now because I know you've been living there. And you told me the last thing you want to do is move. I get it, man. I totally get it. But you know, and I know that you're not paying a reasonable rent. And he's like, he
Right.
agreed with me. So we signed a brand new lease at 1,100 a month, which is still a little bit below market rent. I could probably get 13 for that thing right now.
Hmm.
But I said, listen, if you stay here and you're happy here and you're cool with everything inside this property, I'm going to give you no trouble. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to be responsive if you need me. And I'm going to make this an easy transition for you. And as of now, we have a very good relationship. If he's late for a day or something, I don't bang him over the head with a late fee. I'm like, that's
Right.
fine. He's a cab driver, super nice guy, hard worker. I respect him. Hopefully he respects me. I think he does. And we have a very reasonable working relationship. So you got to treat your tenants like people because they are people. They are going through their own crap, right?
Yep.
You can't just be like,
Uh-huh.
I'm the landlord, I'm the rich guy. Like, screw you, poor tenant. That is not how you treat people at all. You got to be professional and stern with them too. Like you don't want to like if he didn't pay his rent for a couple of weeks, I would say, hey, listen, Will, like let's work this out. But I'm not just gonna like bang with a late fee if he's 12 hours late. Like that's insane. And some landlords do
Yeah.
that. They're like, well, it's a company policy. It's like, well, you made the policy, asshole. You know, seriously.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Like, yeah, you're dealing with people, and the thing there is that you got out a good deal, you got a good discount, so
Great
that you
deal.
don't even need to like bump it that much.
No,
You could say
I
you're
own it
getting
in
eleven
cash too.
hundred.
Like I'm like, I don't have no mortgage, so I'm just like, whatever. Like it's all cash flow. You know.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, how much more are you going to raise it? And the guy's going to move, and then you have
Yeah,
repairs
you
to
got to
deal
turn it
with.
over,
It's
right? You got to renovate it. It's like,
Yeah,
well, I don't want to do that either. You know.
yeah. It's better that way. I mean, yeah, he was under, and they know they're underpaid too. They know 850 is not the market. And maybe
No.
it was 15 years ago, and
Well,
he's been
that's the
paying.
truth. That was the case. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's like 1400 probably.
Well, the thing is, I always tell tenants too, like if I'm raising the rent, I'm like, listen, go take a look out, see what else is out there. If you find something, I'll help you move out. I'll give you a couple beans to get out of here. But if you don't find anything that is, reasonable, let me know. I can give you a reasonable rent increase and it'll still be a better deal than what you're going to find on the market. And they call me, they say, because I manage the properties myself. And I'm like, they're like, Greg, yeah, we couldn't find anything. I said, all right, cool. Let's make a deal. And
Yeah,
we make some, and I don't just jerk them like right in the face with like a huge increase. I'm like, okay, I'll give you a reasonable rent bump so you can kind
right.
of see how it goes. And then in a year, we'll talk. I'm going to raise, and I listen, I still will raise the rent every year too. I raise the rent a little bit every year because
Yep.
at the end of the
Yep.
day, a lot of the properties that I buy that I flip or wholesale, it's because the silly landlord never raised the rent on the tenant and they're too afraid to do it now. And they've kicked the can down the road for 10 years. And now like,
I see it all the time.
oh, it's horrible, dude.
I analyze deals all the time. I'm like, oh, the tenants are great. They've been paying all this time. Yeah, yeah. What's the rent? Oh, yeah, the rent's a little low.
Yeah,
It may
the
be
rent's a little low.
it's
When you say a
it's
little low, can you share with
1500
me the number? They're like, yeah, it's 1,400. I'm like, on Zillow, it's like rent
per
estimate 2,750. I'm like, I know why you called me, you know?
that yeah, you see it all the time. And you know, I'll something like that. It's a great example. I'll buy it, or I want to buy it because obviously the market's crazy. But I'll put in an offer where it makes sense. I'm going to either cash flow or very little cash flow at that number, because I'm not going to buy it and then what? It's not going to cash flow. You're going to evict the person, and then it'll
In there.
cash flow. Like why? You always want to protect yourself and get it cheap enough where the deal makes sense in its most conservative use, and that is at the current rents. And if they don't pay you, hopefully you got it cheap enough where you can evict them and still have a smoking deal.
That's the key. And another thing too with evictions is I've been through those. Uh, I always like to start in New York with a reasonable cash for keys offer before an attorney even gets a phone
Yeah.
call. I say, listen, here's how it's going to go down. You want to leave or you don't want to pay, whatever the case is, you're ending your residency at this place, to say it in the most professional manner. Here's how it's going to go down. I can give you some money to move out to the next place and you can be out by this day. I actually just did this with a tenant last week. And if you accept this offer, we're going to put it in writing and I'm going to hold you accountable to performing and you're going to hold me accountable to performing. So I actually just did this. This was like a total gamble, bro. I have so many fucking examples. I love talking about this stuff. So, bro, this property, it's a package of 3 units. One is a single family,
Nice.
and the other one is like a shit. I have never seen these, but like one is apparently like an outhouse in the back, shit box, like real bad. And then the other one is like a real shit box, like total disaster. I'm actually going to see him next week when I'm back. But anyway,
Nice.
so she's like, I don't want to deal with my tenants. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll call your tenants. I'll make them an offer to leave and we'll go from there. So this poor lady, this landlord that I'm dealing with is and honestly not the best landlord. She probably knows that if she's listening. And I said, listen, I'll deal with your tenants and I'll get them to sign these agreements and I'll give them my own cash if they leave. So this one lady,
Nice.
I called her out of the blue. She's been living here forever. I said, listen, your owner is selling me the property. Uh, I'm going to need these properties vacant. And I wish I could keep you. I just can't. We just can't keep you. And she's paying like
Yeah.
nothing. I said, here's the deal. I normally don't do this, but I'll give you like $500 if you roll out of here. And I'll give you a reasonable timeline. I'm not going to bang you over the head. I'm going to be very, very reasonable. So she took a leap of
Yeah.
faith, signed the agreement, and I sent her $500. And she took a gamble on me and I took a gamble on her, and she sent me the pictures and it was vacant. So if you can go
Okay.
approach a tenant in a manner like that and make a reasonable deal with them, I'm telling you right now, it is just so much better than getting an eviction. I just paid my last eviction attorney bill again for like $1,000,
Yeah.
and they just keep billing me, right? And it's like, you don't want to evict people. I'll tell you the truth. I mean, it's a nightmare, complete nightmare.
Oh, it's 10 grand minimum of just attorney
Oh
fees and
yeah,
court fees and stuff,
oh
and then
yeah,
sheriff fees, and
and
it's
adjournments.
not worth it.
Nassau, you got
Yeah.
their storage unit. It's a complete disaster.
Oh, the rules in Nassau are so stupid. But
Yeah,
yeah, like I have a buddy who did a cash for key. He got screwed. He had a cash for keys deal, paid the lady to leave. She left. Right. He goes in the backyard to like get the plywood to like board up the windows so no one can get
yeah,
in.
lock it
As
out.
he hears some noise. He goes to the front. He looks, and there's someone's feet sticking out the kitchen window. So he goes into the house. He's like, what the hell are you doing? This is my house. He goes, no, 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 I live here now. It's the daughter. It's like the lady's daughter or whatever.
Oh, no
So
way.
she's like claiming residency, all this shit. He made a mistake. He called the cops, and the cops are like, listen, my hands are tied. I can't do
Oh,
anything.
dude, that's the worst.
So so he ended up, actually the eviction wasn't so bad. He actually got her out in reasonable, like a month or two, which is like in New York is pretty good.
Yeah,
But a little nugget he told me was like, when he was doing this, I guess when he's doing the cash for keys, what you're supposed to do is have a cop there. Like you want the cop to see the transaction, or at least see that it was vacant. Like, hey, this is my tenant. She's leaving. It's all vacant. Okay, see you later. Policeman. And then if something like that ever happens, you say, listen, here's the guy's badge number. Here's the report. It was vacant 2 days ago. Now this guy's claiming he lives there. Like, what are you talking about? So like that's a little way to not go throughout the court process, because once the cop goes, this is a civil matter, I can't deal with this, you're screwed. You're going through the courts. It's going
you're
to take
done.
forever. But if you can get the cops to sort of say like, all right, yeah, this was vacant. This guy's clearly taking advantage. You got to go, and they'll get him out for you right there.
100%. No, that's a straight nugget because if you have documentation, it's so much easier. I had a tenant one time. I got a lot of these. It's funny. This is like a whole slew of stuff, but I had this lady. I actually got her to sign on the spot. I did a cash for keys like in one day. Can I tell you a quick? You have time for a quick story? This is a really good.
Yeah, dude,
I say this
dude,
all
I
the
got
time.
all night.
All right, this is really good. So, oh my god. So wholesaling this house in New Windsor, great area, and the tenants, or it wasn't even a tenant thing. Basically, like it was an inherited property, and like it was a mess, and like they let their nephew stay there, and it was his mom's house, and it was this whole disaster. The house, it was actually a condo. It was this thing was disgusting. This property, it was. I could barely walk around this thing. I was like this, like it was so bad. So, so we're
Your
supposed
feet
to
are sticking to the floor.
Oh, it was horrible. You have cats everywhere. There's shiitake everywhere, bro. This thing's a disaster. So I'm inside this thing and I'm like, all right, we had the closing schedule. And now I'm back in California. So I'm at the property. Now I'm back out on the West Coast. I get a call from the buyer. Hey, we're not closing right now. There's pandemonium going on inside the premises. And I'm like, pandemonium? Like they were supposed to leave. Like this was the whole plan. So it turns out the people living in the property who technically were the sellers, well, they didn't get any money because like there was a huge lien on the thing was a mess, but basically they needed to sell. They were supposed to move literally across like the hall or next door or something to like this other
Okay.
lady's unit, and she was gonna like let them stay there for free because they're just kind of like random people. So
Yeah.
The other lady's son caught wind that these people were going to be moving into the property, and he went bananas and said, "You're not living here, not a shot." They freaked out. The two guys had a hotel, then there's this other lady living with them. They were like, "You're not coming with us." So then she takes all of her shit, throws it out of the unit. There's like they're in the hallway now in like this condo complex, and like she's screaming, she's like holding her cat. The cops
Oh my
show up,
God.
whole thing's going on. It stalls out the deal. Now I'm really pissed, and I was flying back to New
Yeah.
York for the holidays, so I'm like, I'm gonna handle this myself in the flesh. So I took my dad over there with me. Like a couple days later, I knock on her door. By the way, there's no lock on this thing. The door opens wide up. She's in like a bathrobe. She's like looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, hello, like. And my dad is like an ex-cop, and he's pretty like, he's like not a pansy, but he was like, even like he was like, whoa. So I walk in the property, and I'm like sitting there, and it's like a 20 something $1,000 deal. This is like a big deal. I wanted to get paid. And I'm like looking at the property, just kind of like looking around, and it's like looking at all the filth. And I'm like, I look right at the lady and I say, "Do you really want to live here?" And I said it just like that, and that tone. And she's like, "No, I don't. I hate it here." I'm like, "How come you're here?" And she's like, "I got nowhere else to go." Bingo, we got the problem.
Oh.
So I said, "Listen," I said, "I don't know if I can do this, Mrs. Squatter. If I could get you out of this property today, get you a storage unit, get you a hotel room, and get all of this crap out of the property today, would you take action? Because I'm going to make some calls." And I didn't know if it was going to work because I obviously had things out of my control.
Yeah.
She said, "I would do it today." I said, "Good." I call a moving company, schedule them 2 hours later. I called a hotel room. I said, "Do you take cash?" They said, "Yes, we do." I said, "Do you take pets?" They said, "Yes, we do." I said, "Yeah, I got a new customer for you." And then I said, what was the last thing I had to do? Oh, I had to make sure that she was going to vacate. So I got all the shit lined up. Oh, and then
Right.
so a mover and a motel basically. That was the two things. Oh, and a
Okay.
storage unit. Sorry, and a storage unit because she had all this shit.
Yeah.
There's no way you're taking this to a hotel. So storage unit had availability down the road. Moving company was on their way in 2 hours, and the hotel was eager for new customers to say the least. Got her. I
Wow.
personally moved her out in like literally 6 hours. Did the whole freaking thing. Helped the movers. Did
Wow.
all this shit. Paid for all of it. And I said, "Here's the deal. You're forfeiting your right to stay in this property, and you cannot come back under any circumstances." So I actually filmed her on my phone reading the document we signed. I said, "What's your name? And what are you doing? And what did you sign?" And I got her on the record. So in the event that she were to break back in, like you just said,
Yeah.
smoked. So you gotta make sure
Wow.
you do this to the T. Because if you screw something up and they come back in the property, you're done.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And like what would just you spend a few grand, maybe 4 or 5 grand,
Not even,
to
bro.
make 20 to make 20. I mean, it was the
It was
best money you
maybe
never spent.
$1,000, dude. Because like I literally gave her a wad of cash. I said, here's a lump of cash. I said, "I'm not putting my name on this hotel bill. Pay in cash. Take the cats, and have a nice day. Hasta la vista. Merry Christmas." She got out of there. Anyway,
Wow.
I want to transition into the last segment of the show before we wrap up, and it's really all about taxes because you're an accountant. So, can you talk to the listeners about what is a cost segregation? Because this is something a lot of real estate investors like myself and other people do to drive down our tax bills every year because it's a
Yeah.
pretty cool thing that the government allows you to do.
Yeah, so a cost segregation study is, you hire one of these firms that specialize in this service, and what they do is they analyze your property, and they're able to, let's just like take the compartments of each component of the building, or the building or the home, and they're able to classify it as different types of property, right? So they're going to take the windows, they're going to take the doors, the kitchen cabinets, the flooring, everything. They're going to itemize it onto whatever you purchased it for, and they're going to give you an itemized, detailed report on what each of that purchase price, right? And what you could do with that is that a lot of different components have different depreciation lives, which can accelerate depreciation upfront, and get you huge deductions in the first few years of owning a property, as opposed to just buying the rental property. For example, you buy a single family house, you divide it up between land and building, and then you depreciate it over 27 and a half years. That's generally what people do,
Yeah.
right? By taking the cost segregation study, you might take maybe 20% of that they're going to say is 5-year property. maybe 10% of it's 7-year property. And those types of property is subject to bonus depreciation, right? So not only are you get to, you're thinking, all right, 5 year, I get to get it over 5 years, so accelerated. It's better than that because bonus depreciation is 100%. So, you buy a $200,000 property, 20% of that, let's just say is either 5 or 7 year. That bonus depreciation at $40,000 is a tax deduction year one of owning that property.
Wow. You can write that off
Now,
against your income.
yeah, now I made up the 20%, obviously, because I don't have a cost segregation in front of me, but I've seen that. Like that's literally, what they do is they accelerate depreciation, and the IRS accepts it too. It's a legitimate practice that is done all throughout, a lot of real estate professionals. Now, here's the catch. If you're just like an investor, like if you have a day job like me, and you're doing this and you think you're going to get a cost seg and it's going to save you taxes, it's not, because now that tax or that excuse me, you are considered a passive investor. That is passive income. So the passive income is you don't get to deduct passive losses against your ordinary income, against your W-2 income. You can't do that. So it doesn't benefit everyone. It only benefits people that are real estate professionals like you, or people that are doing like owning like hotels and stuff like that, or having like operational businesses where they're able to take those losses and truly net it against other types of income, whether it's capital gains, whether it's dividends and interest, or ordinary income like W-2. You can offset your losses by using a cost segregation study to reduce your income and ultimately
Interesting.
taxes.
So basically, let's say someone nets 300 grand a year and they're a real estate professional and they do a
Yeah.
cost seg on a 2-family house. And the cost seg says, okay, based on what we saw here, you can deduct $50,000 up front. That
Yeah.
$50,000 write-off would then go against the 300, which would really make your tax liability 250 in that case, right?
Yeah, if you're making 300, like flipping and wholesaling and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
that's ordinary income, so that type of income, depending on whether you're an S corp or not, you might have to pay self-employment taxes on, right? But if you're an S corp, that's a separate category.
Oh,
But either
I did
way, you
a
still
long
got.
time ago. Yeah, I pay myself a W-2 and then because I don't, that self-employment tax
Yep.
is crazy. Fuck that.
Yeah, dude, in that example, you made 300K, but you paid 15.3% of it to self-employment taxes, and then you pay income taxes on top of it.
Not a
So
shot.
you don't want to be a Schedule C. You don't want to do that. But yeah, anyway, getting back to that example, if you made 300K in that S corp, and then you did a cost seg and it says 50,000 is your deduction for depreciation that year, that 50,000 would get netted against all of your rental income, obviously, and then whatever's left over is deducted against your ordinary income.
Oh, wow. You can really drive your taxes down legally by doing that. That's like a legit
Yeah.
strategy.
But it's like a catch-22 though, man. Like it's great. I think a dollar saved today is great and better. Like as a tax professional, that's my advice, is to save the money in year one. But it catches up to you when you sell the property. When you sell that property, you have to pay depreciation recapture, which so if you bought the property for 300 and then you depreciated it, right? Your basis gets lower and lower in the property each year. Now, when you sell that 300,000 for, you sell for 500, you're paying the capital gains on the difference between the 3 and the 5, which is right. That's great. That's at a lower percentage capital gains rates, but you got to pay back all the amounts you've depreciated up to the 300,000.
Yeah. So you got to keep, basically, it sounds like if you want to be cost segging and really doing it, you have to be buying properties consistently, because it's almost like a little hamster wheel. And it's hard to get off it because you really can't ever sell the property because you're basically fucked.
Yeah, right. So a couple things. Yeah, if you want to always get that cool deduction every year, keep buying properties, obviously. That'll just enhance that depreciation that you're getting. Now also, oh yeah, so what else was what were you saying? I
You have
lost
to
the train of
keep
thought.
you have to keep buying the property. Like you have to keep buying properties
Oh,
because you're if you sell, you're screwed basically. You have to then recapture all
right.
that money.
So what else I was gonna say? Yeah, you never want to sell, because what will happen is hopefully you keep these properties long enough where you die,
Yeah.
because now the people who inherit those properties get a stepped up basis in those properties.
What does
So,
that mean?
you know,
I've heard people talk about this. Can you explain this like in a very elementary way? Because this stepped up basis
yeah.
thing, I have no fucking clue what it is.
Um, so yeah, so I guess all right, we'll go this way. So stepped up basis essentially is you get a at the date of death, and when you die and when
Yeah.
your kids inherit that property,
Yeah.
their basis in that property now is the fair market value at the date of death.
Okay.
So in that $300,000 rental that we just talked about, you die 30 years from now it's worth $1 million. Their basis is now $1 million. And you might have depreciated the hell out of this thing and you have no basis.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
basis is essentially the land, which is maybe it's like 60 grand or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you got a basis of 60 grand, which if you sell it, you're absolutely screwed because now you'll pay all this tax, or you just keep it. And then when you die, your heirs get the stepped up basis, which is $1 million. So essentially that difference just gets wiped away. Gets wiped out.
Interesting. So you can set your successors up in a decent spot where they don't get just creamed with taxes, basically.
Yep, 100%. That's why people do 1031s, because they might be like, you know what, I'm selling my Section 8 portfolio into a better deal, into commercial real estate, right? So they don't want to pay tax. So what they'll do is they'll 1031 it. So, they'll, I don't know if you know what a 1031 is, but essentially it allows you to defer that gain until ultimately you sell it outright or die.
So you basically just keep taking the gain you would have actualized and roll it into the next deal, and it just kind of like gets momentum.
Yes.
And then at the end of the day, you could have a multi-7-figure gain, but if you just keep doing that, you could croak, and then it's stepped up basis.
Yep. And then your heirs get the stepped up basis, and you'd avoided that you essentially have no basis in the property, which and that huge gain that you would have paid, you essentially wiped it out because now you're dead.
There's the real estate game in a nutshell. Get rich, die,
Yep.
have your heirs not pay much taxes.
Oh my God, I have a client, like $1 billion client, like at my day job. That's all he does. 1031, 1031, 1031. Every year he's doing it. I mean, this guy, forget about it. Billions and billions of dollars of real estate. But that's the name of the game. You're using the bank's money to buy rental properties. And essentially that's what you're doing. You're coming up with like very little money. You're improving it. You're refinancing out. You're essentially in the deal with no money. That's what the real professionals do. And then don't ever sell them. And they just keep on exchanging them higher into bigger and better deals. And they don't pay any taxes.
Yeah, because think about it too. If you're buying like good deals at a discount, or you're buying like value add commercial, you can always increase that. But you can basically manipulate the value or get it at a discount, like arbitrage. So, like you said, you have no skin in the game because you're either finding the value or creating the value. And this is why most people in America who are ultra wealthy, like you said in the beginning of the show, are involved in real estate, because the rules and regulations in real estate are like no other asset. At least to my knowledge. I could be off there, but I think most people would agree with that.
Yeah.
And that's what you hear. Like most people, what is it, like 90% of millionaires are made or preserved in real estate because the government wants you to have housing. That's the truth too. Like the reason they have all these laws is because they want people to own property so people can live and function in society.
Yeah, that's why, that's essentially the gist of it. Like you say, oh, why did all these real estate guys get all these great, tax deductions? And it's like, they do the same thing for oil and gas. They do the same thing for farming. Like these are industries, particularly real estate. It's a very big portion of our economy. All the subsidiary, like all the transactions that are done. There's a lot of jobs that are supported in that chain, right? So they know this and they want to stimulate that. So they give a ton of incentives to people that are actually putting their skin in the game or investing or making things happen. And they're going to give great tax deductions and tax advantages and loopholes for these people, because at the end of the day, it's all about, keeping the economy going and keeping people employed and all that kind of stuff, good stuff.
I love it, man. This was a fun show. Mike, to keep the conversation going with you, how do people reach out to you if they want to connect?
You can follow me on Instagram, that flipping accountant, or you can, my cell phone's there. You don't have any stalkers on your listening to your podcast, do you?
Not that I know of. I'm not Joe Rogan.
All right. All right. My cell phone's 516-662-6132. So give me a call, text, whatever you want to do. I'm love to connect.
Love it. Well, we got, yeah, you got the good old Nassau County area code, man. Gotta love the 516. And then what's the suffix 631?
Yes, absolutely.
2 area codes. a lot of people. It's funny. Every time I go to Long Island, I'm always like, if I didn't live in the Hudson Valley or like San Diego, I would probably live in Long Island because there's so much to do. It's so dense. The North Shore is my favorite personally too. I think it's really nice up there. And I got to say, man, Long Island is a great place to be at. I mean, I don't think you can find much better, in my opinion, than like Long Island if you hit it in the right neighborhood.
Yeah, no, listen, I love it. I grew up here, so I mean, I'm kind of like, what do I know? I didn't really
Yeah,
live anywhere
yeah,
else, but it really is a nice place. Like I said, I'm on the North Shore, so I grew up around a lot of golf clubs and the country clubs and all that kind of stuff. So I not that I was a member or anything like that. It's just I caddied for a while, and there's something about it. I just like that the picturesque,
it's
the
beautiful.
North Shore stuff. It's really nice here in the fall. Like our falls here are beautiful. And I love the bay. Like I live in Oyster Bay. I think Oyster Bay, like the bay particularly, was rated like the #1 bay on like the Mid-Atlantic, like whatever that means. I don't even know like who votes for that. I have no clue, but it's a cool spot. I like where I am, and
Good place to raise a
really can't.
family, good area.
Yep,
Like even like Jeremiah lives in like Centerport. I've been there. That's like a nice
love
area.
it.
Yeah,
Really
good
nice.
area. Beautiful. Well,
I'm
anyone in
like
Long
20 minutes
Island
from
or
him.
yeah, what would you say?
I'm like 20 minutes from him. Huntington and Centerport, Northport. I'm like right there.
So you're in Eastern Nassau then, huh? Is that Eastern
Yeah,
Nassau?
that's the thing. That's why, yeah, I love my location because I'm like, I'm not too close to the Queens and all that crap, and then I'm not like in Suffolk. I'm literally on the like, I'm probably 2 miles from like the border of Nassau, Suffolk. So I'm maybe 10 minutes from Huntington, like the village of Huntington,
Yeah.
and then just past that is like you said, Centerport, where Jeremiah is, and then just past that is I have family in Northport. I love Northport. It's another great little quaint town. Um, so that's my area.
How far are you from the South Shore? Like if you want to get down to like Jones Beach, is that a decent little ride? You got to cut through, you got to cut down across the island to go there.
It is. I mean, I grew up in Bayville, which was like on the water, North Shore, which to get to the South Shore was like an hour, 45 minutes
Oh,
or something like that.
wow.
But I'm in a position where I'm just on the corner of essentially 25A and 106. So anyway, so I'm like if I go on 106, I go south, I'm 5 minutes to the LIE. So if I'm 5 minutes from the LIE, you can kind of get anywhere,
Yeah.
Northern State, LIE, it's all there, the Wantagh, South Shore. It's like I can get down to like Long Beach in 35 to 40 minutes, which isn't bad coming from the North Shore. I can get to my rental property in 40 minutes, 45
Oh, that's you
minutes.
can get out to that's if you can get out to that out east, that's really good, man.
Yeah.
You're really not that far removed from if you have to go out there for some reason. That's not like you're driving to, Montauk if you're in what is that, Valley Stream or whatever. Like that would be a legit 2.5, 3 hour ride if in traffic.
Valley Stream, yeah, that's secluded
Basically
down there. That's
Queens.
like kind of like where Pinto lives, like over there, right? Like the Mon lives out in Oceanside. That area, it's hard to
Yeah.
get to. That's a hard spot to get to, from where I
Pain
am.
in
'Cause
the
I'm on the
ass.
other side of the county, but I'm near like Hicksville. Hicksville. It's like kind of
Yeah, 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 yeah.
central,
You're out
sort
there.
of.
Okay. Are you by Bethpage? Kind of.
Yes, I'm very close to
All right,
Bethpage.
so you're over there. Yeah. So they're more like, yeah, like almost they're right near Elmont and like it's
Yeah.
more kind of like Queens-ish vibes around there, because it's right on the
Yes.
border. You're more
Who's
like
moving?
Long Island where it's like more suburban. They got a great area. Like Michael's neighborhood is gorgeous, but like it is right by Queen. It's right by JFK. His house is probably 10 minutes from JFK with no
Oh,
traffic.
that's cool. I mean, that's cool being near that close to JFK. That's pretty nice.
Is that where you guys
Yeah,
fly out of usually? JFK? You don't go to Newark, New Jersey?
yeah. I try not. Oh, hell no.
Hell no.
I even LaGuardia. I'm like, I won't go there.
Oh no, that's far. Well, because you got to go up 678, which is that like when you
No,
like JFK and LaGuardia, it's that road to get from the two airports could be a log jam for hours.
yeah, the Cross Island, which yeah, you take to like
Oh,
whatever
it's
to
horrible, dude.
whatever.
Oh,
Yeah, I
brutal.
just I just go LIE. I just go JFK, LIE, Cross Island. It's like right there on the belt. You're
Yeah,
there.
there you go.
It's like 40 minutes from my house.
There you go. Well, if you wanted a Long Island geography bonus part of the podcast, you just got it. So, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show. Mike is the man. He's become a good friend of mine. And I hope everyone got value today. If you did get value, if you could leave me a review and share the show, reach out to Mike. It'd be greatly appreciated. And Mike, I'll talk to you later, bro.
Hey, Greg, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, man.